SP, PSP, and AP for a permanency review before final order. Is the mother, Amanda Denman, present?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there you are. Everybody's little today on the screen. And is that Mr. Perkins, Jimmy Perkins, I see next to you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Um, and let me is everyone ready? Ms. McPherson, Ms. Stanley, Ms. Walker,
Yes, Your Honor.
Walker, Ms. Catherine. All right, and who is our work? Ms. Robertson, yes, thank you. Okay, Ms. Walker, you may call your first.
Yes, I called the caseworker, Ms. Robertson. Would you go ahead and state your name for the record, please?
Thank you, ma'am. Heather Robertson.
You're sort of breaking
Can
up.
you hear me?
Now I can. Yes, thank you.
That was better. Yes.
Okay.
And Ms. Robertson, first of all, where are the children placed?
So the oldest, A, is placed on a monitored return back home with parents. And P and S are located in a licensed foster placement in the area.
And first of all, as to the oldest, since she's been back home, how's she been doing?
She's been doing well. I visited the home several times. I only had a few complaints to speak about with the placements. Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me a little bit better now?
Well, it seems so. It seems so. So let's try.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry about that. So
Not at all.
the visitations are going really well between them.
Miss Robertson, first of all, can you go back? I think you broke up a little bit when I asked about how the oldest child has been doing since she's been back home.
Yes, ma'am. She is doing well. She seems to be happy back home in her placement. We had a discussion last time I was there about her needing to keep her room nice and tidy, and she's working on that. She's enjoying school. She likes being home with her mom and dad. She's enjoying learning about, she's starting to cook a little bit with supervision. She's doing well.
Okay. And did you say there were a couple of issues or no?
Yes, ma'am, there were. Besides A's needing to clean her room and keep it tidy, I did mention to mom about the medication that needs to be put up in a lockbox.
Okay. And
it was not properly stored.
Was that parents' medication or child's medication?
Both.
No. Okay. And since we're talking about medication, are any of the children taking any psychotropic medications?
They are Respiron, and Miss Amanda and Mr. Jimmy have been very active in the children's medication and what they're, they know what they're on. They've been a participant in making those decisions for the children for their best interest. I hope I got all the medication right. I'm trying to look and make sure I didn't miss something.
I know you mentioned one or all the children taking the same medication.
They are. I do believe they are all on Respiron. I believe it's for ADHD.
Okay.
And so far, so good. There have been a few bumps in the road, but it's going.
Okay. And how are the other two children doing in their placement?
They are doing well in their placements. Visits are going well. Foster mom has reported that there have been a few hiccups here and there with Defiance not wanting to clean their room. She's working on that very well. The children are doing well in school. Stormy needs some tutoring S needs some tutoring in reading. Things are going all right. They miss their parents, but they do understand why there's a separation. And again, the family visitations go very well.
Okay. Now, I believe there was supposed to be a visit between the siblings.
Yes.
Okay. And did that visit take place?
Yes. We've had consistent family and sibling visitations. Yes.
Okay. And any issues at all?
No, none that I've noticed.
Okay. And the younger two children, as to the oldest child being returned home, has there been any issues in regards to that from the youngest two children?
So I would say that yes, they do understand and know that they do understand and know that there are issues, that they're not back home where they want to be. We are doing everything we can to help negate those feelings. At Christmas time, we actually had I had set up a visit for the family to host dinner at their home, and Ms. Denman had cooked a bunch of gumbo, and they had presents, and we were going to do this big family celebration in the home, supervised, of course. I was going to be there, and we were not able to facilitate that visit due to concerns about how the younger two may react to having been back into that home. So we ended up doing that visit in the park outside in the dark. But it was a good visit. Like I said, the kids, they understand. And whenever I separate them and they move on, it's not a traumatic thing. They hug, they wave goodbye, they're screaming out the window. I think that they're old enough to understand where we are, why we're doing what we're doing, and we just keep giving that positive reinforcement and care.
Okay. Are the children seeing any other besides, I guess, doctors in regards to the medication, but are they seeing any other healthcare providers?
They do. Pauline and Stormy have a therapist that they see bi-weekly, I believe, and it's with a local person, and they're doing well.
Okay. What is
Stormy? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
A has, to my knowledge, has not been set up yet with that. Where it's pending. I believe we have a call in with Miss A. Williams about that, as well as the family's therapy sessions. Those have been just the appointment needs to be made. I was in touch with Ms. Williams Friday.
Okay. What is the permanency goal for the children?
The permanency goal for the children, the department does not recommend at this time reunification. It's relative fictive kin adoption or relative fictive kin conservatorship. And if we can't find a family member that's appropriate, and we have not, we would be looking at unrelated adoption.
And you say things have been going well with the visits and with the oldest child being back in the home. Why does the department have the current permanency goals?
So the department is concerned because we have had domestic violence concerns with this family since 2006. This family has been in the department's purview since that time. We have had ongoing investigations with the family in 2009, 2010, 2013, 2014, 15, and in 20. The department believes that services have been offered throughout all of this time. It seems like there's always been a relapse with drugs, domestic violence, and danger to the children. They have a tendency to kind of lay off their cooperation, then they want to jump back on and cooperate again, and that's a concern for the department. There's mental health concerns and concerns about past use of weapons in the home. The children have stated that Mr. Perkins has used a gun.
Hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Has used a firearm.
Question.
The judge sustained the objection, so you can't answer that question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Um,
The
so in regards
department
to
is,
any,
oh,
hold on, is there anything else, in regards to the permanency goals, that
yes, ma'am.
needs to
The
be brought to
department is concerned about the children's past expression of fear being in the home with their parents, due to circumstances that were happening in the home at the time. We certainly don't want to see these children fall back into a lifestyle where there's drug abuse, domestic violence, arguing, and mental health concerns.
Okay. In regards to the parent service plans, first of all, as to mother, has she completed the services in her service plan?
She has completed everything, but we have a BIP assessment that was on the initial family plan of service. And she went at the beginning of January, and we're still waiting on the recommendations from that. There was a concern that she and Mr. Perkins denied domestic violence during their intake assessment. And the department's position, per the affidavit of removal and per statements from the children and other collaterals, that domestic violence is absolutely a concern. And we would like them to get the correct assessment and the services they need to help, help that not be an issue in the future.
Okay. And has the father completed all the services that's required in his service plan?
He has not. I have not gotten a parenting certificate from him. And his BIP assessment, he did do that. Sorry. He also denied any instances of domestic violence, and that's a concern. And I believe he has not completed. He did his parenting classes, his individual counseling. I don't have where he completed his individual counseling.
Okay. Now, would you say the mother is in compliance with her service plan?
I would say at this time it's moderate.
Okay. Now, I believe you said that she completed everything, but she did the BIP assessment and you're waiting on recommendations.
We are waiting for recommendations. I believe that the BIP assessment came, at a very late date. And that's why my moderate rating. And also in respect to drug testing, she has engaged in drug testing. She did miss in April, May, and June. And she's been consistent since then. And there have been no positive hair follicles or UAs or alcohol tests for her.
Okay. And as to the father, is he still participating in drug testing as well?
He missed January. I sent them on 1/5, and he did not participate in that. He missed April, May, and June as well.
Okay.
And his last positive hair test or his last positive test was for alcohol, and that was in July.
And is he giving you any indication as to why he has missed those drug tests?
He has indicated it's due to his job, and that I don't give enough notice. But again, I maintain that our drug testing is in fact random, and I'll let them know as quickly as I can that I'm going to be sending them.
Okay. At this time, are you asking that the court allow each of the placements to continue?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, that's what we would be asking.
Okay. And do you feel that's in the best interest of the children?
I do.
Are you also asking that the department continue as the temporary managing conservator of the children?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And you feel that's in their best interest as well?
I do.
Do you also feel there would be a continuing danger to the health and safety of the children and contrary to their welfare if they were returned to a parent or parents today, those that have not?
Yes, ma'am, I truly do. I believe the judge made a great call in kind of in the last, how he's, chose to do this. And I'm glad things are going well for A, but I still have, the department has concerns.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey.
Ms. Robertson, what is the continued danger that you testified to that would keep these children from being returned, the remaining two, to their parents?
Yes, sir. So, again, there's a concern that Mr. Perkins did not drug test for us in, this last time in January. We have a concern still about the mental health aspects and the use of weapons in the home as per the affidavit of removal. We have concerns about the stability of Mr. Perkins and Miss Denman and their relationship. The long history that this family has with the department and the ongoing concerns of neglectful supervision, child neglect and endangerment, physical abuse, it all compiles into a very, it doesn't paint a very positive picture of longevity.
Okay, so you have nothing specific right now other than long time past history. Is that accurate?
That's not true. That's not what I said, sir. No, sir. I said we have concerns about Mr. Perkins, the way he's participating in drug testing. We have
Okay, let's start right
concerns.
there. Let's start right there. You said in January. Is that January of this year?
Yes, sir. 1-5.
1/5 of 2024.
Yes, sir.
Okay, did he not appear?
He did not.
Did you notify him the evening before he was scheduled to take that drug test?
I did not. I notified them at
Okay,
7 o'clock
okay.
that morning.
Okay. Are you aware that at our last hearing on November the 21st of 2023, the court, and I wrote down, the court asked you to notify the parents the evening before of random drug testing for them to accommodate their work schedule. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir. I do remember that.
Okay. So you didn't do that, did you?
No, sir.
Okay. And so you're holding that as a grounds against him because you didn't give him proper notice. Is that accurate?
No, sir. I do believe I know that per the court order that I should have let him know the night before. However, I did let them know at 7 o'clock the following morning, and I do feel like that's adequate time.
So do you feel that what you feel is adequate should trump what Judge Lockwood feels is adequate?
No, sir.
Okay. So you're holding against Mr. Perkins the January 1st of 2024 failure to drug test that you failed to give proper notice as directed by the court. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. It is a concern.
Okay. What about Mr. Perkins's, or you said mental health? Is it Mr. Perkins's mental health?
Yes, sir. I do have concerns about Mr. Perkins' mental health.
Okay. And so why do you personally have mental health concerns?
As per the affidavit of removal, Mr. Perkins believed that there was someone living in his attic and used a weapon with the children present in response to the belief that there was someone living in his attic and coming down and doping him up, per se, per the affidavit of removal. And that is a concern when you're talking about his ability to effectively make good judgment calls in relation to these children.
Okay, so that was over a year ago, right? In fact, the removal was in November of 22?
Yes, sir.
As part of the family plan of service, was his mental health addressed?
So, yes, sir. He did participate in group counseling or couples counseling with the one that Miss Amanda saw, I had her name written down. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. However, as far as individual counseling, I do not have a discharge notice or certificate for him for individual counseling.
So you don't believe that Mr. Perkins has addressed his mental health?
I have concerns with those. No, sir. I do believe that those have not been adequately addressed.
Okay. And you believe that that's at his fault, or do you believe that that's as the fault of the department?
I maintain that falls on him to address those needs.
Okay, I'll leave the rest of that question up to Mr. Crocker.
Yes,
you also mentioned the concern about January dealt with Mr. Perkins, the drug testing, and then the mental health dealt with Mr. Perkins. You also mentioned weapons, and that involves Mr. Perkins as well?
Yes, sir, it did. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that allegation or your concern stems back to November of 2022 as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. And have you addressed that over the last 12 plus months?
I would think, in a compilation of all services and talking and, that.
I'm sorry, Ms. Robertson, you
And
cut
the
out for just
fact
a
that-
second. Can you start that over? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Yes, sir. I would think that, yes, sir, those things would be addressed in compilation as sir.
We've been able to
Yes, sir.
we've been unable to hear any of your last answers. So let's try it one more time.
Regarding the weapons.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
We can that time, yes.
Position on that is that Mr. Perkins has had history with the department since 2006. In light of the longevity of all of the concerns that we have addressed with that family, we believe that within that amount of time, there should be some demonstrated change. The department is not seeing adequate change since that time to make it comfortable for us to recommend a return for safety reasons.
Well, would you agree with me that the standard is not whether or not you're comfortable, but whether or not there is a continued danger? Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree that there's a continued danger to the children.
Okay, and so we're going through that right now. And I asked you about the weapons and what currently about weapons is a continued danger at this time.
If Mr. Perkins' mental health concerns have not been adequately addressed, the concern is that he may feel like it justifies using weapons again in the future to solve any issues that may arise.
So that's a what if and not an actual existing danger. Is that accurate?
I would argue that it's absolutely a danger due to his past behavior.
Okay, so over the last 12 plus months, has there been any issues that have dealt with mental instability and weapons?
No, sir.
Okay, and so as we sit here today, are there any?
At this time, no, sir.
Thank you. In regards to the 2006 history forward, is it part of the family plan of service to address those issues that give rise to the children's removal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so it was your testimony that I believe Miss Denman was, I wrote down adequate. Is she adequate?
Yes, sir. As per my conversation with Miss Walker, I would like to revoke my moderate. And yes, sir, she is adequate.
Okay. And for Mr. Perkins, I wrote down moderate. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what more can these two parents do to erase the 2006 forward history for the department to be comfortable?
So we don't expect that there's a world with which we can go back and erase the history that's happened in relation to child abuse and neglect. However, going forward, while the visits have been going very well, we do continue to have concerns about the home environment, about the relationship that Ms. Denman and Mr. Perkins have. We are not fully satisfied that that relationship is healthy and wouldn't pose a further risk to the children. We have concerns.
Okay. And so what about the home environment right now is a continuing danger?
The last time I was in the home, it was interesting. Miss A had toys everywhere. I talked to her about putting up her clothing, about picking up, about, just keeping her area livable for her own health and safety. I spoke to Ms. Denman about that as well. We discussed the medication. That was a concern. Again, those medications need to be in a lockbox and out of access for the child. The home did have running water and food. There was a concern that when I arrived at the home, Mr. Perkins refused to let me inside the home because Ms. Denman wasn't home as well. And that was a concern for me. I visited with Avery outside, and he allowed me to speak to Ms. Denman on the phone. She was at work, and my understanding is that they have a agreement not to let any persons of the opposite sex into their home unless they are both present. And while I can respect that in reference to, just people in general, when you have a case with the department and they're coming to speak with the child and assess the home, that's a concern for me. She did in fact come home though, and I was able to go into the home.
So you testified that the house, I guess, I don't want to make words up, but would you say it was cluttered?
Yes, sir. I would just say that A's room needed some attention, definitely.
Okay.
And we did talk about that, and she said she was going to get on that.
Okay, so I want you to tell Judge Lockwood why that clutter is a continued danger that prohibits the return of the two children.
It does not pose a danger per se. It's a concern. It's a concern about the parenting that Ms. Denman and Mr. Perkins demonstrate to guide A to take care of her room, her surroundings, contribute as a family. It's a concern.
Okay. And in regards to the medication, when that was brought to the parents' attention, was that rectified?
I don't know. I was going to come back that following week and was unable to.
Okay. Did you instruct them on how they needed to keep that medication locked up?
I did. I told them that it needed to be, in a lockbox or somewhere safe behind a locked cabinet. And Miss Perkins, Miss Denman said that she would address that immediately.
All right. And then you previously testified that the instability of their relationship was a concern of the department. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. So what that, where that concern stemmed from was when I was not allowed to come into the home due to, their ongoing agreement. That concerned me, in the fact that it made me wonder where that had come from, where that agreement had stemmed from, and whether it was a barrier to allowing the department to come in and visit the home.
So the parents were making arrangements, rules within the relationship to strengthen their relationship, and the department still found a problem with that. Is that accurate?
That is not how I would put it. No, sir.
Well, that's how you interpreted it, right?
I interpreted it as you have a case with the department comes knocking on your door, asking to see the child and see the environment, and you're not allowed, the department wasn't allowed to come inside due to what I was told was an agreement between both parties that they wouldn't let others of the opposite sex into the home without both parties present.
Okay. Can you explain, you mentioned the Christmas visit.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what date that was scheduled?
No, sir, I don't. It was right before Christmas.
And what were the arrangements? You mentioned a gumbo and
We did. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We had made arrangements for about a 2-hour visit. I was going to pick up the children at their placement, and we were going to go to the Perkins home. And Miss Denman they had gotten presents. They had a tree. She had made gumbo and desserts. She and A had made desserts together. And we were going to do a Christmas visitation in the home.
And that was going to be at their residence, correct?
It was, yes, sir.
So how did that Christmas party at their residence turn out?
We were not allowed to have that visit within the home setting. We
How come?
ended up, there was not agreement with the parties, with the
Who
guardian
didn't
ad litem
agree?
and the
Who didn't
guardian
agree?
ad litem and the attorney ad litem.
Okay. So
So
the
we
guardian ad litem,
yes,
the
sir.
guardian ad litem and attorney ad litem stopped the
Yes.
family Christmas visit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to get these two girls to see their family for their Christmas open presents?
I was. We ended up doing it at the park at night. They packed up their gumbo and their desserts and the presents and brought them to the park, and that's where we did our visit.
What was the temperature at the park?
It was chilly. I would say it was, in the 50s at least.
Was it comfortable?
Upper 50s. No, it was cold.
And do you feel personally that having the Christmas celebration outside of the home and at a park, a local park, was warranted on a personal level?
No, sir, I don't.
I imagine Judge would like to know how did the girls, how were they with that Christmas visit? All of them.
So it was okay. They were cold. They did complain about the cold a little bit. I don't think it was as cozy as it could have been. But I'll tell you that I will say that Mr. Perkins and Ms. Denman did their best to make the best out of that situation, and I commend them on that.
How long as far as preparation time do they have to make the change in plans?
A few hours.
You had previously mentioned there was some, I think it had to do with a BIP, but there were some other things that you were needing to update on at least Miss Denman's family plan of service. Is that accurate?
It is. Yes, sir. Both. So what Ms. Denman lacks doing right now, we just need to get the recommendations from her BIP assessment.
And so how long have we been waiting on the recommendations from her BIP assessment?
She had her assessment done on January the 5th, I believe. And we're still waiting due to, it was about the domestic violence issues that she and Mr. Perkins both denied that they had any domestic violence in their history. And the department provided our documentation from the affidavit of removal that supported another story. And we're waiting to hear what the assessment comes back with. I did email them this morning and I still haven't heard anything.
Okay, so when can Ms. Denman expect to receive an updated family plan of service?
She should have already received it. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for those recommendations to come through, and then I'll get it updated.
All right. According to my November 21st, 2023 docket notes, I believe Judge wanted family therapy is what I wrote down.
Yes, sir.
Was the family therapy from November 21st, was that something that was put into motion?
So it has been put into motion per se. Ms. Ann Williams is going to facilitate that. I've been in contact with her. The family said that Wednesday afternoons would be best, and I've recommended in-person family visitations. So I did let Ms. Denman know that she needs to reach out to Ms. Williams and just schedule that. And also the other children's foster placement is aware of those times for family therapy and is on board.
Okay, and so when was that 2054 request sent over to Ann Williams?
I would have to go back and look. Let me see when that was sent. Let me correct that. For the therapy session for family therapy, Ms. Williams said she didn't need a 2054. She needed the oldest child's Medicaid number, and that was provided to her.
Okay.
Let me look back at my.
And can you tell me when the parents were notified that they were to make these arrangements with Ms. Williams?
I actually told Ms. Denman just this morning that she needed to reach out to Ms. Williams. Again, that was something we were working on week before last, and then I was completely unavailable last week. And so that fell on me.
So they now have, or at least Ms. Denman has, Ann Williams' contact information and knows that she is to reach out and schedule future appointments. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And that's for, yes, sir. That's for the family therapy. And again, everyone's on board. I think we pretty much have the time and everything, the date anyway, figured out. And we will get all the family there and start that.
How many sessions will this family therapy take, or do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know how frequently they'll meet?
I hope at least once a week.
Okay. Are you aware that we are set for a final trial on March the 5th in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you talked with Ann Williams in regards to her being able to accommodate the court's deadlines and to accomplish this family therapy before then?
So we haven't. We're just kind of waiting for, like I said, Ms. Denman. She said she was probably going to reach out today, make those appointments, and I will get in touch with Ms. Williams again this afternoon, and we can talk about that.
Okay. Also, last hearing, judge ordered no corporal punishment. Has there, to your knowledge, been any corporal punishment utilized on the children?
No, sir.
Okay. To your knowledge, has there been any consumption of alcohol or drugs by the parents?
No, sir. The last positive test we had was from July.
Judge also ordered that there was to be no contact with the half-brother Dalton. Do you know if they've complied with that?
Yes, sir. To my knowledge, that contact has not happened.
Okay. Do you know if the parents have complied with no unsupervised contact with an Uncle Wes?
To my knowledge, that contact has not happened.
Judge also ordered that the parents were not to fight or argue in the presence of the children. Do you know if they've complied with that?
I have not heard any reports indicating otherwise.
Okay. Have the parents reported all lifestyle changes to you?
Yes, sir.
In regards to transportation, do you know if the parents have only transported the children by means of a licensed driver?
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
And has Ms. Denman followed the mental health treatment as recommended by her therapist?
Yes, sir.
In regards to transportation, can you kind of update Judge on the accommodations that the department has made to assist the parents travel-wise?
Yes, sir. As always, the department is willing to provide transportation when needed, but Ms. Denman and Mr. Perkins were able to get a stable vehicle, and it's very appropriate, and they are providing their own transportation.
So has there been any incidences where they've requested assistance that wasn't accommodated, or was it not necessary?
No, sir. At this time, it hasn't been necessary, but they both understand that they just reach out to me and I'll be happy to help them with any transportation needs.
Yeah, because that's all on you, right? You'd have to do the driving, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We also
Even
have
on
more help now.
Even on nights and weekends. In fact, that Christmas visit was a night visit, was it not?
Not on a Saturday, I believe. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I have, Ms. Robertson. Thank you, and I'm going to pass you as a witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Robertson, do you know if the drug testing facilities to which you would send Mr. Perkins today, would they be open today if you know?
No, sir. To my knowledge, they're closed today due to the weather. That was, well,
All right.
Beaumont could be open. I know here in Orange they're closed.
Okay, all right. And I don't know what roads are not passable.
No, sir.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Crocker.
Mr. Robertson, would you please explain to the court how detrimental it was for Mr. Perkins to miss that January 5th drug test request?
Yes, sir. I would say that it wasn't detrimental per se. It was just something that we asked him to do and he didn't follow through with it.
Would you say it changed the complexion of the case?
No, sir, I can't say that.
Do you have any concerns about him using drugs?
Yes, sir. As always, those concerns are going to be there due to the past history. However, he has not had a positive test since July.
How do we know that he didn't take his test in January 5th of 2024?
I don't have any results from those drug testing. I have Ms. Denman's, but I don't have Mr. Perkins.
Okay, so Mrs. Denman has provided you with her results from that requested January day?
No, sir. She doesn't provide those. The agency, the third party, we have a website we go to for that information.
Okay. So it's really on you to check and see whether the drug tests were complied with.
Yes, sir.
And when did you update your records on my client's failure to take this drug screen?
Can you rephrase that question?
Yes, ma'am. When did you check last to make sure my client did not take the requested drug screen of January 5th, 2024?
This morning.
Okay. Would it surprise you if I have in my possession that I would like to share with the court a copy of the drug screen that he did in fact take for January 5th, 2024?
Yes, sir. That would surprise me because whenever I looked over and made notes, no, sir, I did not have that in my possession.
Your Honor, can you allow the share screen?
Yes, sir. I believe you have that in your possession if you say you do, sir. I just did not see that or note that in my research this morning that was done.
Okay. Well, I would represent to you and the court that Mrs. Perkins forwarded me the copy of Mr. Perkins. Mrs. Perkins forwarded to me a copy of Mr. Perkins' drug screen results that he did in fact take them.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And apparently the Perkins can share it, whereas I can't, if that would be permissible, Your Honor.
They may.
Or I can possibly.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, I do apologize for missing that. I did not want to misrepresent anything to the court.
Okay, well, if you could see it and verify that's in fact what you requested of Mr. Perkins.
And if someone would forward that by email to Ms. Robertson.
I think I have them both. I could do that really quickly while
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just something I missed. My apologies.
Okay. So
My apologies to Mr. Perkins.
we don't have that issue any longer, it appears, and I think we're going to forward that to you so you'll have it for you. These weapons that you're concerned Mr. Perkins may use,
Yes, sir.
what are those?
Per the affidavit of removal, Mr. Perkins used a firearm to shoot up into the attic when he alleged that there was someone in the attic who was living up there and dosing him up with drugs. There was an outcry by the youngest child that Mr. Perkins does use weapons when he fights with Miss Denman, and I just know that that's what the affidavit of removal says. And that affidavit of removal was the one from 2022.
Okay.
Those are just
and so tell the court, ma'am, the evidence that you have today that there's weapons in the home.
I do not have any evidence that there's weapons in the home.
Okay. So his possible usage is pure conjecture. Correct?
I would say that the concern is there just due to the past behaviors.
He doesn't have any weapons that the department is aware of, correct?
To my knowledge, no.
And you certainly asked to look for him since you were concerned about him.
I have looked around the home and been at the home several times. I did not see anything of weapon that would.
So it's always going to be there regardless, I assume, whether
Yes,
they
sir.
make representations there or not. So is it something they can remedy for you?
No, sir. At this time, I would say that honestly to the court, it's a concern, and I don't know that there is a remedy per se for that, because that concern will in fact always be there.
Okay, that was my point. No matter what Mr. Perkins does, he's not going to satisfy you that there's not a potentiality of weapons being used in the future.
No, sir. No, sir. I can't speak to that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Same for drug usage, conjecture.
Yes, sir. Due to past behaviors.
I understand, ma'am. Asked and answered, Your Honor.
Same.
Mr. Perkins take his parenting class?
So I do not have a.
Yes or no, ma'am? That's a yes or no.
I'd have to go back and look and double check on that. To my knowledge, I did not have. With Angela Balderas. Yes, sir. He completed that with Angela Balderas.
Yeah, that's another thing you testified to, is that he hadn't completed his parenting, right?
Yes, sir.
Kind of like the drug testing, right?
I can tell you that I overlooked the drug testing.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Are you reviewing your file before you testify, ma'am?
Yes, sir, I am.
But you missed these 2 points that you testified to directly, that my client has not fulfilled these.
Yes, sir. So what I need is a
Objection,
certificate
non-responsive.
Sustained after yes, sir.
Okay. Now, ma'am, this BIP, talk to the court about that. When was that implemented? What has my client done?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yes, ma'am. The BIP, BIP, Betters Intervention. You
Yes,
stated
sir.
my client.
Yes, sir. So he did attend the assessments, and we do not have the results back from that as of yet. There are concerns that both parties presented to the assessor that there are no domestic
Objection,
violence
non-responsive,
issues.
Your Honor. Sustained. Sustained.
Ma'am, my question, please listen to it. Did my client go to the BIP assessment?
He did attend the BIP assessment.
All right. Did you testify he had not?
No, I did not.
Okay, what did you testify to with respect to his BIP?
I testified that he attended that BIP, and there were concerns that he and Ms. Denman both misrepresented to the assessor that there was no domestic violence in their history, and we had to provide documentation supporting that perhaps that definitely was a concern.
Okay. So is he going to be required to go to BIP?
I am waiting to hear back from the assessor on that.
And how long has the department known about this domestic violence allegations between the parents or the parties?
Well, the domestic violence issues definitely have a documented history of being ongoing. Yes, sir.
Right. I believe according to your test
was discussed during.
Your Honor, objection, not responsive.
Sustained, but Ms. Robertson, you're breaking up again. I don't know if you're stationary or whether it's a Wi-Fi issue.
Yes, sir. I'm at my home using the department's hotspot.
Well, we can all relate to empathize with that. Before moving on, let me ask you, what documentation and or statements, if any, did you provide to the BIP assessor?
I provided the affidavit of removal with highlighted portions indicating towards domestic violence. And I told her that is, that's what we have to indicate that it could absolutely be an issue. And so they are taking that into consideration and going to get back to me. Again, I emailed this morning as well to try to get an update, and I haven't received one yet.
All right. And one other thing before we move on, have you confirmed that Mr. Perkins has a certificate of completion for parenting?
I have not confirmed that, no, sir, but I can confirm that and get back to you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Crocker, any other questions?
No, Your Honor, I pass the witness. Thank you.
Regarding Mr. Perkins' drug testing, does anyone, don't tell me what they are if you do, but does anyone have any results or any evidence that would go to any results? Okay.
Not yet, Your Honor.
Okay, so, and did you send him for a hair follicle or just a UA?
I believe hair, UA, and alcohol.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, any other questions, Mr. Crocker?
Yes, with respect to your last answer on the type of test that was requested, ma'am, on the intake sheet, it says it's a single specimen collection.
Mm-mm. No, sir. Let me see if I can find that 2054.
And it's asking for specimen temperatures that would be reminiscent of a UA. That'd be reminiscent of a UA, not hair, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to make sure what drug test you've asked for, because the judge asked and you said there was 3 types and it only looks like there's 1.
And what you're looking up is your 2054 from the 5th?
Yes, sir. So I also, in the drug screening, I have that pulled up, but it's not moving very fast. And then in our impact system, I can look up 2054s.
Per policy, can you do 1 2054 for a hair follicle and a urinalysis and an alcohol look back, or do you need 3
Yes, sir. So those, when I do those, they're 3 separate
2054s?
Yes.
Okay, so while you're looking for those, let's if at all, let's try to move on.
Forward. Yes, sir.
Ms. McPherson?
Yes, Ms. Robertson, are you currently the caseworker on this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have someone filling in for you briefly?
I did.
And who was that?
Her name is Catherine Molinaire.
And how long did she fill in for you?
A week.
And what was the reason for that?
I had personal issues.
And do you remember when that week was?
Last week.
Do you know if she was able to visit the parents' home during that last week?
To my knowledge, she did not visit the parents' home, but she did attend a family visitation, and as reported, it went well.
Now, as to this Christmas visitation, when did you notify all the parties about this planned visitation in the parents' home?
I believe it was that day.
Okay. Would you agree with me that it was around 3:03 in the afternoon on December 20th, and the visit was to occur at 6:00 p.m.?
Yes.
Did you talk or discuss any of this visitation with anybody else other than the parents?
I discussed it with the foster mother. I discussed it with those people. Yes, ma'am. I didn't discuss it with any other parties.
And how much ahead of time did you discuss it with the foster mom and the parents?
I would say I had that planned for a couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay. And did you ever discuss it or reach out or try to ask a therapist what their recommendations would be for the children to go into a home for a visit and then have to be removed again after 2 hours? Did you ever talk to any type of counselor or therapist involving that?
No, ma'am. So I would say that
Objection to non-response after the yes or no.
Sustained
No.
after, ma'am.
In fact, after you gave testimony that it was myself and Miss Stanley that was the ones that objected and stopped that in-home visit, isn't it correct that you never discussed it with the program director as well?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay, and in fact, she also indicated that that visit should not happen, correct? After the fact?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Isn't it true that the program
I'm going to
director?
object to hearsay at this point. Anything that the program director might have said.
Any response, Ms. McPherson?
I'm just trying to, I guess, Your Honor, isn't it, I'll rephrase the question then, Your Honor. Isn't it true that it wasn't just the ad litems that had concerns with this in-home visit for Christmas? Yes or no?
To my knowledge, it was only the items that had an objection.
When have the children, November 21st, you recall that we had that long hearing, correct? And it was ordered at that time that the children participate in family therapy. Isn't that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And you're telling this court that it has not even been set up until last week, Friday.
It is. Yes, ma'am. It's being set up now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Don't you agree that these children, especially one being returned home and the other two not, that this family therapy is imperative for these children?
I would say it's very important. Yes, ma'am.
And when did you provide Mrs. Perkins, or Miss Dedman, I should say, with the information for Ann Williams?
We were talking about it week before last. I reached out to Ann Williams. Again, last week I wasn't able to facilitate and make that contact. And so this morning I reached out to Ms. Denman and I gave her that information and said she needed to text Ann Williams and set that up. And she was ready and waiting for that appointment to be made.
But again, we are almost 2 months post that hearing when family therapy was supposed to be set up, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have the children have SP and PP been in any type of counseling since they've been placed in their current foster home?
They have.
And who is their counselor?
Her name escapes me, but it's with a local organization called Not Without Hope.
And how long have they been with that therapist?
Since they were placed in the home.
Do you have any of those counseling notes?
Not at this time.
Do you know when they started those therapy? You said since they got placed. Do you have an exact date of when they started?
I do not have an exact date, no, ma'am.
How often do they see this? And this is what type of therapist is this that they're seeing?
I believe it's a trauma-informed therapist, and they see her once every 2 weeks, I believe.
Is that in person or virtual?
It's in person. It's Not Without Hope.
It is Not Without Hope?
It is. They have therapy every Thursday. So weekly every Thursday.
And I know at the last hearing, isn't it true that the children, the AP was placed with the parents, not an actual monitored return? Is that correct?
I would say that I don't know the answer to that, but we're treating it as a monitored return and trying to make sure we're visiting the home weekly.
Have you been able to, you or your worker been able to visit weekly?
I believe we have visited weekly, whether it's visiting with the children during a family visitation separately, or actually walking into the home. But the
How
last time,
often hang on. How often have you personally visited AP in the home?
Weekly, if not every other week. If it's
Okay.
not, I've even gone over on a Sunday.
So okay, so I guess I'm not really clear. Are you going and seeing AP on a weekly basis in the home?
Yes, ma'am, that's the expectation.
That's the expectation, but is that what you're doing?
Yes, ma'am, I do go over and see her. I look at my pictures.
Now, is she enrolled? She's enrolled in school, of course. Is that correct?
She is.
Do you know, how is she doing in school?
To my knowledge, she's doing well. I have not made contact with her teachers. That is something that I need to do and go up to the school and visit with them. She likes school. She's made friends. She seems happy.
And are you aware that there is an ARD meeting on Friday?
Yes.
If you have that information, can you please forward the contact information for the Unlitums to be able to participate in that ARD meeting?
Absolutely.
Now, it's understandable. I know he asked if there was no consumption of alcohol or drugs by the parents. And the last drug test that you have you been able to get the result for Mr. Perkins' drug test as we're talking?
No. Again, I was under the impression it hadn't been done because that's what I was seeing.
How soon can you get those results? If does it appear to be at the same facility that Miss Denman went and did hers?
Ma'am, I can't tell. We can call and find out.
I think that's very important to have those results today. Don't you agree?
Yes, ma'am. I will do my best to get those.
Now, I wanted to clear this up. In the court order from last time, she was to maintain her psychiatric treatments and her prescriptions. Have you double-checked? Have you confirmed that she is complying with her psychiatric treatments? And have you done any pill counts?
I have not done any pill counts. I do know that she is on medication and that we discussed locking that medication up at the last visit, but I have not done pill counts.
So what medication is she currently taking?
I believe her last report was the Prozac.
And have you followed up with her mental health provider that she is continuing per the doctor's orders, the visits, and the treatment plan?
I have not. I received the completion for her for counseling and parenting, and I have not followed up with that.
If that's part of the court order that she maintains her psychiatric treatment, isn't that imperative as well that we can prove to this court either she is or she isn't in compliance?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially for a permanency hearing, and we have one child home and potentially 2 other children being asked to go home. Don't you think that's imperative?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, were the parents set up, was mom or the father set up to do a psychological with Dr. Amin?
They were not. They had their psychological assessments, and we had those with the Mind and Body Clinic. There were the psychiatric evaluations. I'm sorry.
Correct. Were they set up with Dr. Amin for a psychological?
Let me look. I've got on 12/6. I did a service authorization for Ms. Denman and Mr. Perkins for Dr. Amin for 6 units.
Do you know what happened with that either authorization or them doing the psychologicals with Dr. Amin?
No, ma'am, I don't. Would
it surprise you if it was an allegation that you canceled those appointments with Dr. Amin?
That would surprise me. Yes, ma'am.
Did you cancel those assessments with Dr. Amin?
Not to my knowledge, but Taylor, I do not have an email indicating that I.
Would there be a reason you would have canceled those psychologicals with Dr. Amin?
No, ma'am.
Is that part of their family plan of service?
It is. Yes, ma'am.
As far as you know, those 2054s are still outstanding. And does Miss Denman and Mr. Perkins have the information to participate and have transportation to do these psychological evaluations with Dr. Amin?
Yes, ma'am. To my knowledge, yes, ma'am. But we will absolutely provide transportation if they do need it.
And if there's any issues with a 2054 for Dr. Amin, for both Mr. Perkins and Ms. Denman, will you make sure that that gets done again so that these parents can get these psychologicals done? As you've testified, you guys have concerns with their mental health, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a way to find out and to make sure that they're psychologically stable? And if there's any recommendations, because we're coming up to the end of the case again, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in fact, you did have, so how many visits have they had with AP and her two siblings? How many visits have they had?
We have been having a visit a week.
With all the siblings together and the parents?
Yes.
Or is it just, okay, so let me back it. That was a horrible question. Has AP visited with her siblings weekly?
But it's bi-weekly.
Okay. And that's AP and the siblings with the parents bi-weekly?
Yes.
And how long are those visits?
Usually about an hour, sometimes two, just kind of depending.
And that's bi-weekly, correct?
Yes.
And where are those normally take place at?
So we've had them at the park. We've had them at McDonald's. The last time it was at McDonald's in Beaumont. Again, the park is nice when the weather's nice. But with the weather turning, I'm sorry, what?
Right. We wouldn't want to have a visit there today. At the park. Okay. But
at the park? Right.
Now, are you familiar? Does any of the CPS offices have a kitchen that's available for parents if they want to be able to cook for their children?
So, to my knowledge, the Lumberton office has a little area, but I don't know that it's like set up to cook. I've never really been in there. I don't know. I haven't really noticed that.
Okay. Now I know that you've been in their home, so I want to follow up with this. As far as the Perkins home itself, you mentioned that Miss AP has to clean her room up better and keep it clean, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Because she is how old?
She's 11.
Have you provided the parents any information to help a child that is on the spectrum to help them learn how to get her to help keep it clean? Have you provided any information for them on that?
Yeah, ma'am, I would say that we definitely have not spoken about that per se, about Avery being on the spectrum and getting her to clean her room in that context. However, Ms. Avery is a very intelligent young lady, and I believe that she accepts redirection from her parents that I've observed quite well.
So the last time you had mentioned
that
at one visit that the living room was full of her toys. Subsequent to you bringing that to the parents' attention, has that been taken care of?
I haven't been to the home since that visit.
Okay. Now, as far as the other two children, can you describe the home for me?
For their placement?
The parents' home.
So, it's appropriate. It's a single wide trailer. In A's bedroom, there is a bunk bed with a single bunk on top and a double on the bottom. And then additionally, there's another mat from the bottom of that. There is one bathroom. The washer and dryer is in the hallway. You walk down to the right, and the parents' bedroom is to the right, and it contains a mattress and a closet. And then you walk further down there, and the living room is nice. There's a wraparound couch. They have movies. They have a television. And into the kitchen, where there are bar stools there for the bar, and the kitchen kind of wraps around. There's a pantry area. There's 2 refrigerators, and I've observed working utilities.
Now, as far as the bedroom, now have the parents talked to you about what their plans would be if the other 2 girls were to be placed with them? Have they mentioned to you what their plans would be for that?
So what we did discuss is that that the children would have their own beds, as is observed by the mattress on the floor, which, I would hope that they would get that fixed, relatively quick. But that's really about all we've talked about. They believe that they are ready and able to take all 3 in. They believe that they are ready to take on the challenge and ready to have their family back home.
Now, as far as how big do you, based on your knowledge of the children's and their behaviors, would that 1 bedroom be sufficient for all 3, or do you think if they were to make their bedroom into a bedroom, would that be better? Which would you think, based on your observation?
Yes, ma'am. So I would, if the parents did choose to take their bedroom and make it into an additional bedroom for the children,
But would that remove the living room area then, though? Because then the parents
that would be what's best for the children. Yes, ma'am. So I would say that while the living room area could continue to remain a living room area, if they were to sleep on the couch, I think it could be done. But I do believe that it's better for the children to have some separation and not just be on top of each other. They need their own space.
Especially given the information that we talked about last time with AP and the fighting among the siblings. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. But other than that, did you see any other safety concerns in the home itself?
No, ma'am, just the medication that wasn't in a lockbox, and we addressed that. And I plan on making a trip out this week. I did not note any other safety concerns.
As far as placement of any 2 of for AP remaining in the home, do you think that does the department believe that's in her best interest at this time?
No, ma'am, we don't support it.
Wait, say that again, Ms. McPherson. Ask your question again, please.
I asked her if the department thought it was in AP's best interest to remain in her current placement.
We do support that she remain in her current placement. However, the department maintains that we do not support family reunification as a whole. Yes, Avery's doing well in her placement.
All right, next question.
Okay. Your Honor, I believe that I've gotten the results. If I could take just a few minutes to review those.
You may. Does everyone have them? And we need to make a determination as to hearsay before they're admitted, or any discussion is had of them. And we're really going to have to pick up the pace big time. So go ahead and look at those. Let's make sure everyone has them. You may address that as you see fit, if at all. And I also want you to let me know whether or not you are substituting your judgment for any of the children's desires in this case at the appropriate time, Ms. McPherson.
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Robertson?
Yes.
Okay, I know that you've had conversations with all three children, and as far as all three children go, does PP, have you observed the interactions between the parents at the visits? How is PP with the parents?
She loves them. It seems to me like she's especially bonded with her dad.
And how do you know that?
Just watching their interactions and how they interact together during those visits. She kind of gravitates towards him.
I'm going to ask you this. Does she almost have some same mannerisms as Mr. Perkins? If you've observed that at all.
I can't answer that.
Okay. And what about SP?
The visits go very well. She's very happy. She interacts well with both of her parents and they with her.
And what about PP at the current? I know they haven't been there very long. How is PP in her current placement?
So doing well. She primarily does what she's asked. I believe that there's been a few problems with PP being kind of a little bit manipulated into doing some chores around the room in lieu of SP taking over and taking that responsibility. But it's going well. She's doing well.
What about SP?
She's doing well. A little bit of defiance as far as cleaning her room and doing those things when they're asked, but the caregiver's working on it. She interacts very well during family visits. I haven't observed any squabbling or fighting between the children. It seems all in good fun. They get along, they run, they play. The parents are very interactive with them.
And any concerns about the current placement, cleanliness of the current placement's home, or any issues with the current placement's home?
So I would say with the current placement, they're a wonderful couple and they have small babies within the home. And I would say that, when you have small babies, sometimes things can get lost, be put by the wayside, and there's clothes folded in places. The kitchen table has clutter on it, but the girls' room is appropriate and clean. Their bathroom is appropriate and clean. All of their needs are being met in that home.
Okay. And as far as the outside play, is there a play area for the children, for SP and PP at both the mom's house and the placement?
There is at the placement. At the parents' home, there isn't necessarily a playground per se. However, the park is not far, but there is a nice open area where the children can run and kick a ball or, supervision.
And Your Honor, I think at this point, I will pass her as a witness.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Walker.
Just briefly, Your Honor, I just called Ms. Nieto to clarify something.
Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Robertson?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, thank you. Ms. Walker, you may proceed.
Ms. Nieto, I believe earlier we were provided a screen, or it was shared with us, a document where Mr. Perkins did go and submit to drug testing, I believe on January the 5th. Did you see that?
Yes.
And did you in turn look for the actual results of the drug testing?
Yes.
And was his name correct on those results?
It is not.
What name is on the results?
I think it's his last name is misspelled. I'd have to go back and look at it again. It's P-E-N-C-I-N-S instead of a K and an R.
Okay. So would that be why maybe Ms. Robertson was not able to find those results when looking?
Correct.
And is the department going to, I guess, verify that and get the results issued in the correct name?
Yes, I will call the facility and have it the name corrected and verified that that is the correct ID number to his urine specimen and hair specimen. And we will get those resent out with the correct name.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, and can that be done, Ms. Nieto, without him having to go back and retest?
Yes, sir. I just have to call. We just verify that the numbers that we have in the system are what they actually have and correct the name.
All right, thank you. Any questions from anyone for Ms. Nieto?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any other witnesses? Thank you, Ms. Nieto. Any other witnesses, Ms. Walker?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. McCaffrin, you may call your first, if any.
Try to keep it as brief as possible, Your Honor.
Okay,
Your Honor, is there any way we could have a 5-minute bathroom break?
yeah, I was trying to power through until our 30-minute lunch break, but let's go ahead and take 5 minutes, 5 minutes right now. And before we do, and I don't know how this might affect what you all ask and how long you'll take. We do need to pick up the pace, but I do plan on setting this for a progress/permanency on the 2nd of February. To check on family counseling, to inquire as to placement, and also the parent services. So maybe that helps, maybe it won't. We'll see. Let's take 5 minutes. 5 minutes, please. Mute your devices, please. Mr. McCaffrin, you may call your first.
Okay, I'll call Amanda Perkins.
All right, there we go.
And Ms. Perkins, have you heard the testimony of your caseworker, Ms. Robertson, today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything about Ms. Robertson's testimony that you took exception with or you felt was not accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you start off with the first thing that you recognized that you would like to address?
The psychological evaluations, she had set
What
them
about
up with us. She had set them up with Dr. Amin, and Dr. Amin called me and we got them scheduled. That way it would be around our work schedules. And then I want to say it was the day before or maybe a few days before, Dr. Amin's office called me and said that Ms. Heather had called and canceled the appointments, that they were no longer needed.
Okay. Did you take that up with Ms. Robertson at all?
Yes, sir. She said that she did that because we had got the psychosocial, or
Okay,
that she had found it with the mind and body clinic.
Okay. So is it
Let
your
me hear
understanding?
that. I'm sorry. Let me hear that answer again.
I'd said something to her about it, and she said it was because she had found our tests from the mind and body clinic.
The cycle.
What?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When were those done?
The psychosocials at the time, it was my understanding it was the psychological evaluations, but those were done in late July or early August.
So as we sit here today, are you under the impression that you need to go see Dr. Amin, or is anything set with Dr. Amin? What is your understanding of what's expected of you?
Heather called me not last week, but the week before, and said something about getting with Ann Williams to do the psychological evaluation, that she would send me her contact information. Upon talking to, I can't remember, but I found out that Miss Ann Williams does not do psychological evaluations. It was Dr. Amin, and I tried to call them earlier and they're closed.
Okay, so speaking of Ann Williams, are you set up to obtain some services with Miss Williams?
As soon as Miss Heather sent me the contact information, I did try to call and I texted. I have not gotten an answer yet.
Okay, and what are you doing through Ann Williams?
Miss Heather said it was going to be family counseling, but I've been under the impression that Ann Williams no longer works with parents. It's only the children.
Okay, was there anything else? We talked about the psychological evaluation. Was there anything else that you would like to address from Ms. Robertson's testimony? One at a time, please.
I know I would like to get the service plans that I've been asking for since Avery came home.
Okay, when was that?
Avery came home November 21st, and I've asked her at least once a week for updated service plans for myself, Jimmy, and Avery, so I could make sure that especially Avery was getting all the services she needed. And she keeps telling me she's working on it, and I haven't gotten anything. And she's only came to the house one time.
Okay, so you need an updated family plan, and I guess you're gonna follow up with Ann Williams about what therapies that you're going to be receiving.
Yes, sir. As soon as I can get in contact.
Okay. And so before we get too far, wanted to ask you for let me finish with, was there anything else from Ms. Robertson's testimony that you would like to address, if any?
Not that I can think of right this second, but if I think of something, I'll let you know.
All right. And can you explain for Judge Lockwood the Christmas visit?
2 weeks prior to the Christmas visit, that was on December 20th. It was the first time that we had seen Pauline and Stormy since they got moved to the placement they're at now. Miss Heather said something about bringing them to the house for a Christmas visit, so that way we can have Christmas dinner and all that. And we planned this for 2 weeks. And the morning of, I got up with Jimmy when he left to go to work. My house stays clean, but, I tidied up a lot because, people coming over. I made gumbo. I wrapped the presents. I did, all that, got everything ready. And at 4 o'clock, she calls me and tells me that the Adlatums did not want the visit to happen. Okay. And I asked her what we were supposed to do because it was cold. And she said, we're just going to have it at the park.
So where did y'all go?
We went to the park that's a few blocks from our house.
All right. And how was your Christmas party?
Other than it being cold, it went really good.
How long was it?
It was supposed to be around 2 hours, but I think because Miss Heather was running late with the girls, she was about 30 minutes late. It was probably about an hour because the girls were getting cold and I did not want them to be out in the weather, Right. So we decided to let them go ahead and go home.
And so how would you describe the time? How was it?
It was fun. We had a lot of fun.
All right. So when I asked Ms. Robertson about a continued danger at your house, she mentioned a couple of things that had to do with Jimmy, not necessarily you. Do you have any idea in regards to any personal knowledge as far as Jimmy's taking care of his mental health?
I mean, he doesn't have any mental health issues.
Is he seeing someone?
No, sir.
Did he go for his evaluation at Spindletop?
No. I don't think he was told to do that.
Okay. Well, the department has indicated that there is a mental health concern with Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
You aware of that? Okay.
I'm aware that they think that, yes, sir.
All right. There's also a concern about weapons. Do you have any weapons in your house?
No, sir.
Has there been any incidents during the pendency of this case that involve weapons?
No, sir.
Have there been any incidences where you or Jimmy have threatened to use a weapon on yourself or someone else?
No, sir.
There is an allegation that there's been domestic violence in your case. Have you or Jimmy had any incidences involving domestic violence?
No, sir, we have not.
Are you afraid of Jimmy?
Definitely not.
Did you hear that there was a concern about your relationship and how you guys get along?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you guys make up some rules as far as boundaries and what you were going to do and going forward to make a better
Yes, sir.
or trusting relationship? Can you explain just a little bit?
We made it like we made the agreement, which a lot of couples do this, that if I'm home and he's not, no males come in the house. And if he's home and I'm not, no females come in the house. That is out of respect for one another and to keep problems down. If my mother was alive, my mother would not come in my house if I was not home. I don't care who it is. It's a respect thing and a trust thing with other people. And he called me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He calls me and I leave work and I go home and deal with whatever we have to deal with. And then I go back to work.
Do you believe that it's probably a good idea to have an exception to that rule for CPS caseworkers or ad litems?
No, well, I mean, if I was unable to come home, yes, but I'm able to go home. That is, and the only way I would make the exception is if it was to be able to be recorded without any issue.
Okay, did you also hear testimony about there being a concern of some clutter at your house? Not mess, but a clutter?
Well, I mean, we moved out of a 4-bedroom house into a camper and then into a 2-bedroom house. So we're still trying to get things organized and throw things away. And, you know, we went from a very large house to a small one.
Okay, and is AP helping you out with that? Is she pulling her fair share of the load?
She tries.
Okay. How is she doing there at your place? How's she doing since she's been placed?
She's doing excellent. She gets bored and lonely. You know, she keeps asking when her sisters are going to come home because she doesn't really have anybody to play with.
What about with school?
She's doing amazing in school. Her teachers love her.
And what about her mental health and her medical? How's she doing?
She's doing good. I took her to the doctor. I think she has a follow-up in a couple of weeks. She sees Dr. Raji, the one that she was seeing while she was in the placement in Houston before she came home. I continued going through her because she does telehealth or virtual appointments. So I've been doing that. I think she has an appointment with her Thursday.
There was a concern about medication not being locked up. Was that brought to your attention?
Yes, sir.
Did you remedy that?
Yes, sir.
How?
I have a lockbox. His nerves.
Okay. Do you have concerns about the request for drug tests and the timeliness of the request?
I do have a concern of the timeliness because, yes, we do have a vehicle now, but Jimmy works an hour away from the house, and he's not on one of those jobs where he can just stop and leave. He has to finish the route. That's why we asked for her to tell us the night before. That way he knows not to go to work that day so we can make it on time. And she texted me at 7:32 the morning of the 5th, and I told her what Judge Lockwood had said about the evening before, and she said that she sent it in enough time to accommodate. He has to be at work at 6 o'clock, no later than 6:30.
But just for my own curiosity, if he has to go for a drug test in the morning, is his whole work day shot, or can he make it to work still?
His whole work day is shot once the trucks leave. See, if he knows the night before, then when he gets there, he can talk to his bosses and be like, look, I need to be on this truck today because I've got to leave by this time because I have to go do this. The trucks roll at 6:30. So he can't really even talk to him about putting him on one if he doesn't know.
Okay. Are you working?
Yes, sir.
Where are you working at?
I work at J&R Market for C3 Oil in Sour Lake. It's a convenience store.
Okay. How many days you work?
2 days a week. That way I'm home with Avery because, you know, he works so far away, we never know when he's going to be home.
Okay. Going back to the Christmas visit, you understand the ad litem concern about
Yes,
the
sir.
girls coming and having to be, do you share in that concern? Do you feel like that was appropriate at that time? Do you think that would have really hurt them?
Once I talked to the ad litems on Sunday and they explained their part of it, I kind of do understand, because they wouldn't want to leave. They would want to stay home. But to me, I don't feel like something should be planned and then ripped away from us like that. And I say us because I cried and I cried.
Do you believe that it's time for all three of your girls to be together?
Yes, sir.
What about their half brother? Has he been around?
He has not been around. Avery has asked on numerous occasions if she can just talk to him to tell him that she loves him. She's cried for him. The only thing I could tell her was that we would have to see if we could make some kind of supervised visit where she could at least talk to him on the phone, because that is their brother and he's really trying to turn his life around.
Where does he live?
He lives in Silsbee with our nephew.
Okay. Well, we've been going at this case for quite a while, especially today. So I would like to try to move things along. Is there anything that I haven't asked you or anything that you would just like to bring to Judge Lockwood's attention before I'll pass you as a witness?
We both went for our BIP assessments and they did have the affidavit of removal. The lady that I did mine with read through the whole thing while I was sitting there with her. And she's asked me, she's like, there's no confirmed cases or anything like that. I said, no, ma'am. And she's like, well, I wouldn't recommend you for the group, but if you want to go ahead and do it, I said, well, if you want me to do it, I will. But if you recommend me to do it, they're going to think that, yes, there was domestic violence. So she told me she would get with the caseworker to see what we needed to do. And Miss Heather pretty much told me that I had lied to them. And I did not lie. I told the truth. Those were only accusations, like the lady at the BIP assessment said. I have not heard anything. Jimmy has not heard anything. If we were recommended for the program, nobody has called us.
And so that's part of the delay as far as getting a determination on that? Is that what Ms. Robertson was talking about?
I'm not sure. I know that they said that they tried to call the caseworker and there was never any response. Because they didn't want to do something that was going to affect our case negatively.
So as of right now, do you know where you stand in regards to BIP?
No, sir. Okay. I know they said that they really didn't want to recommend us for the program.
Okay. Visits with your other girls, how are they?
They are really great. Stormy clings to me and Pauline clings to Jimmy.
Yeah, so we heard. Are you now? There's been concerns about how the girls butt heads sometimes. Mm-hmm. Do you have concerns about that? About them getting together, and when they have been together, have you observed any
no, sir,
contentiousness?
They get along really well. Like they do. They get along really well. I think maybe I know siblings fight and it's going to happen, but I think a lot of it was due to them being in placement and being away from, I guess, us. Yeah. But because, kids act out. But when we're all together, they get along. They do good.
Believe a hearing or two before, you guys were living in a more temporary travel trailer, and then y'all were relocating about a week after that into a larger mobile home. Is that where you guys, and we had photographs, is yes. that where you guys are at now?
Yes, sir.
Same place, and it's like across the street, same lot.
Yes, sir.
Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Same town, same schools, everything?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else that you need to tell Judge Lockwood?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass this witness.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crocker.
We just
That's fine.
Your Honor, I have no questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. McPherson.
Just very few, Your Honor. Ms. Perkins, you said Ms. Heather's only been to your house once. Has any other caseworker been to your home?
No, ma'am.
And just as far as the Christmas visit, yes, we've had a discussion about it. And do you think that it would have been beneficial for the caseworker to have reached out to everyone in the case, and we could have maybe resolved that prior to the day of?
Yes, ma'am, because I wouldn't have done everything that I did and, was excited about my kids being at home for Christmas.
And I do. Correct. Now, I also want to ask this, and it's just, I just want to make sure, and I know we're following up. Did you get all the Christmas presents from the guardian ad litem or attorney ad litem?
I was unaware that y'all had sent anything. I never got anything from y'all for her.
Okay. We just want to follow up because that's important for AP, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's your understanding you're going to follow up with Miss Williams because if she is able to do family counseling, you want to get that started as soon as possible, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you can get with Dr. Amin and do the psychologicals, you want to get those done as soon as possible as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I did try to call Dr. Amin's office a while ago to get some kind of documentation that they called me and said that Miss Heather had canceled the appointments, but they are closed due to the weather.
Like a lot of places are today. And we, if you decide you were to see any issues with the kids and their behaviors, what would be your plan?
I would separate them and sit them down and talk to them and see what the issue is. Maybe we can find a way to resolve it.
Okay. And do you believe that therapy is still a good idea for all of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And I do. Are you familiar if Mr. Perkins was diagnosed in the past with bipolar?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
He's not. Like, I can tell you right now, he's not bipolar.
And does Mr. Perkins, he works every day pretty much?
He works Monday through Friday between 6 and 6:30 a.m. to whenever he gets done.
Now Saturday.
And now he's going to start working on Saturdays as well, mowing grass.
So you haven't met was it your understanding or not that you had a new caseworker, or are you confused if Miss Heather is your caseworker or not?
I was under the impression that we might be getting a new caseworker. I thought we had because I can't remember her name, but the lady that was at the visit, I thought she was taking over the case.
Okay, but you have not met with her either personally, correct?
She was the one that was at our visit last week.
Okay.
Or, well, it was Monday, not last week.
Well, do you think that the kids, is there anything that as a mom of all three girls, is there anything that kids need that we haven't addressed?
They need to be together and be at home.
I'll pass you as a witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mr. McCaffrey.
Just one question that came to mind. Ms. Perkins, we've been down this road before. We've had a prior case. Children have been returned home. Why is this any different? Why would this time be any different? Can you explain that to the judge?
So I relapsed because my mom died, and that was the one thing that I had not prepared myself for. I really didn't have that big of a support system. I really didn't have a lot of knowledge to prevent the relapse, but this time I went through a 6-month outpatient program. I graduated in 5 months. I have a very big support system, and I have resources and people that I can call and be like, hey, this is what's going on. What should I do? Or I have people that I can just talk and vent to. And, it's a lot better now.
And you understand why I asked you that question, right?
To see, like, why would it be different this time?
Well, it's because your girls deserve better, and they deserve to not be bounced around like yo-yos.
Yes,
and
sir.
To be in one spot together.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
Agree?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. I'll pass you as a witness.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Perkins? Ms. Denman Perkins. All right. Thank you. Any other witnesses, Mr. McCaffrey?
No more witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Crocker, you may call your first, if any.
I have no witnesses in light of the court's announcement prior to the bathroom break, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Ms. McPherson.
I'll call Miss Stanley.
All right, very good.
Any objections to her in the narrative? Miss Stanley, what would be just making sure that all the head nodding are no's.
Hearing none, she may.
All right, Miss Stanley, I'll give you the floor as far as recommendations, issues that we've had in this case and things like that.
Okay. I'll start with placements of the children in our visit to the Perkins home on Sunday. We found the home to be appropriate. It was clean. A is having an issue with her bedroom, and it is quite small for 3. I can see that being a problem. I think it's a wonderful idea to utilize the parents' bedroom for the girls, because in the last home, it was the girls had to be separated, and Stormy even had a black eye from Avery. So there's some tensions there, and especially close quarters like that. So that's something we can work on. Also, as far as the foster home, Stormy, she wanted to stay both places, but it was important for her to stay there until February 3rd. I don't really know why, unless it's her birthday and they've made plans for that. That was the only thing that I could think of. Pauline wants to go home. The only other thing that I want to make clear to the court, and the purpose, and part of that visit, not only, number one was to see Avery, but to clear this issue up about this gumbo Christmas dinner. You've heard the testimony. The litems knew nothing about it. We received that email. I was on the road. I responded. I said, that's a horrible idea. Your Honor, I have never in 22 years heard of 2 children that are in foster care going to a home where their parents are, and then spend a few hours. There was going to be extended family, and then to send those kids back into foster care. It's the aftermath. It's not the time spent together with family. There is a kitchen at CPS that could have been utilized. We've utilized the kitchen for Thanksgiving dinners in Orange office. Parents had brought a turkey. This could have been done the right way. I only had, as guardian ad litem, the best interest for these children, and I put myself in their shoes. I'm also involved in another case before your court, Your Honor, that without any notice, Miss Robertson has chosen to do this with another child. It has set that child back. We will hear about that at a later date. And I have contacted a therapist. I've even given case scenarios to a therapist, Ann Williams, this morning. Would that ever be a good idea? I have never heard anyone say that that is a good idea, that it is re-traumatizing children. So I wanted the Perkins family to know that my issue was only with their girls, that it was not coming from a mean, evil place. And I'm sorry that they were disappointed, but I will always stand up for the best interest of the children. And I did reach out to Cassie Boyd because I was like, is there a new training or something that I don't know about, that somebody has said this is a good thing? And she said there was not. And I said, well, would you? She said, they didn't even go through me to get permission to do this, Cassie said. And I said, who? She said, Christina or Heather. I said, would you approve it? She said, no. I said, then stop it and let judge weigh in on it before anything like this happens. So I wanted to clear that up, because I would never hurt a family intentionally, like I know that this caused pain. So we'll move on from that. And when I was there Sunday, yes, we're missing some gifts. We'll push that to the side, because Amanda let me know that Avery needed some clothes. So we're going to Amazon, go somewhere, meet, whatever it takes to have some clothes. And also I would like to purchase some bins to help her get organized in the room. So, each hearing we have, there's a new set of facts. There's new goals. And my full intent, Avery is at home. These other girls need to go home as soon as possible. And Ann Williams is the key, because Stormy does have some issues that she expressed to Miss McPherson, and we made Amanda and Jimmy made it known. But I think she will be helpful to this family, and that's a key to success and continued sobriety. So I guess that's it in the narrative.
All right, Ms. Stanley, thank you very much. And the call by the department regarding the Christmas visit, that was prior to any family therapy beginning, correct?
Absolutely. I asked Cassie, where's the recommendation? Who has approved this? we don't do things by our guts just because it's nice. You know, it has an effect on the children. These girls have been through so much. These are children I'm sorry, can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
This is a case when it is time for these children to go home. We should not do the pre-placement visits. They should just go home. Pre-placement visits are wonderful in some cases, not in this one. When it is time for them to go home, just go home.
And
not back.
Do you want family therapy to begin first? If not, get a recommendation from a therapist before the court decides regarding Pauline and or Stormy?
Yes, Your Honor, please. Just a few sessions.
Okay. Can you give us all maybe a little insight into whether or not you believe that Ann Williams may be able to do the family therapy because it involves the parents?
I can. I've already reached out to her this morning, and she has agreed
Excellent.
to provide the services to the parents and the children, family counseling.
Thank her from all of us.
Yes, sir, I have, and I will again.
I know. Thank you. So the visit that did occur, was it beneficial to the children, and did it involve any extended family members, which I know might have been a concern?
There was a concern because Heather had approved some of the folks without a background check or something, so those folks had to be dismissed. I don't know how many folks attended really. I know that Stormy, we asked her if they had a good time. Were you cold? She said, no, I was okay. Miss Heather gave me her jacket. But I don't know about these other family members because they've never really been involved with these children, to my knowledge, in these cases.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Stanley?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Let me see if anyone else has any questions of Ms. Stanley. Okay. Thank you. Ms. McPherson.
Well, I do have one, Ms. Stanley. This isn't the first time in our case with involving these parents and children. Your recommendation is not only based on what the kids want, but have you witnessed a change in the parents compared to the other case?
Yes, I
And
have.
is that,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
McPherson clarify when she says other case.
Well, the prior case involving the same parents, same children from a few years ago, and the kids went home. And have you noticed a change from the end of that, even the end of that case, into the parents today when we went and visited them on Sunday?
Yes, we really had a good visit. Avery, was in another room, so we were able to talk about some of the concerns, the progress, some of the roadblocks that they ran into. We let them know that we were not their enemy. Jimmy was very appropriate. Amanda was receptive. It was a good visit.
And you understand we weren't allowed in until Miss Denman came home as well, correct?
And I understood during our visit, and Amanda explained, I said, it's a Southern thing. I know I have something similar. I know someone that is just like that, and it's just a Southern respectful thing. It's not a disrespectful thing. He treated us just like that. Open that door and close it. My wife will be here in a minute, but it was okay.
In the future, if she's not able to come home, though, immediately, would you like us to have access?
Yes.
If she's not able to come home right away.
If she's not able to come home and we can just see Avery, that's all.
Okay. And do you still want them, even though you're kind of recommending after whatever with Miss Ann Williams, they still have some work to do, correct? They still need some services to fit in.
We do, and this is a wonderful direction. Finally, now that the children are stable in this area, and also the parents are stable in this area. There's only one way we need to go, and that's work these services, continue the path that they're on, so the other two children can come home as soon as possible.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stanley, and I'll pass you as a witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stanley, do you know the schedule, family therapy schedule? Will it be, when does it begin? Will it be weekly? Will it be every other week?
Hopefully every week, since Ann Williams has changed, she doesn't have so many cases because she's made an exception, I guess I should say. So we could certainly broach that subject, and I can see that happening. I really can.
It sounds like all of the children are a lot closer to, say, her office now than a couple of months.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So I am going to order hereby the department to schedule, facilitate, and pay for weekly therapy with the parents and the children and Ms. Ann Williams, provided Ms. Williams can accommodate that, provided it's possible with her until further order of the court, because I want that to have occurred weekly prior to my making a decision regarding any change of placement with PP and or SP. So I will take that request under advisement today. And let me see if there is any other questions for Ms. Stanley.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Ms. McPherson and or Ms. Stanley, so do you know how long it took Mom to get from work to the house?
Under 5 minutes.
Okay. And did you hear? Okay. So she had the car that day, apparently.
Yes.
Did you hear her testify that she works 2 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. So we may not even, with just a little skip. Of course, we want y'all's visits to be at least have the opportunity to be unannounced, but maybe with a little planning, we can avert that situation again. The court, I'm not inclined today to order the parents to, at this point, to break any agreement they have regarding visitors to the home, regarding what we've talked about in that issue, that agreement they have. Okay, any other witnesses, Ms. McPherson? Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I have no other witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I concur with the plan of the guardian ad litem in this case. I know the kids, they're SP and PP are okay with their current placement. They haven't expressed any concerns at the current placement, but I also know that they want to go home. And I agree with this plan to get Miss Ann Williams on board as soon as possible, and weekly would be great and beneficial.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Bear with me just a moment. I want to look at a docket. Okay. I think I might have said to February the 2nd earlier. So actually that's a Liberty County date. And Ms. Stanley mentioned the 3rd or 4th, and I see that appears to be SP's birthday.
Yes.
So maybe there is I hope she's not listening, but maybe there's a party planned that day. So
no.
We already know.
No, the bus ride is on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. That's the only way I can remember it.
But no, for Miss SP's birthday party is already planned, and she already knows all about it.
Oh God. Okay, I'm so confused.
Okay. Obviously, I'm thinking of gumbo. You're thinking of Mardi Gras, apparently.
Yes.
Okay, it is late. So the department is continued as TMC. The children's respective placements shall continue as they are in their best interest. Mom and Dad, the court notes your absolute transformation. It's got to stick and it's got to be permanent this time. I think you all know that better than anyone. And I also note positively your cooperation, your level of cooperation, and your willingness and eagerness to do whatever's being asked of you. to assist you in providing a safe environment for all three of your children. So keep up the great work. I'll say great work. Please keep it up. Do absolutely whatever it takes to stay in recovery and take care and love and respect and be kind to one another. So remember the admonition that if at the end of this case you're not willing and able to provide a safe environment for your children, your parental rights may be further restricted or even terminated permanently. I know you all understand it. I know you don't want it to happen. So keep doing what you're doing and not doing what you're not doing. The court finds both of you are compliant. The final trial right now, the final trial is March the 5th at 1:30, our current dismissal date. And I would just simply note that though AP has been placed back with the parents, returned as it were, this is not a statutory monitored return at this point. Okay, we still are utilizing the time from our general extension. So right now the dismissal date is May the 4th, 2024. I want to thank all of you for your good, hard, long work on this case and the fact that I just really respect and sense how you have the absolute best interest of the children as your kind of North Star, as it were, all on that same page. So obviously their safety being a paramount concern. So anything else from anyone else before I excuse you all?
Your Honor, just real quick, what did you say you were changing the date of the progress hearing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, it's going to be a permanency / progress. And that is going to be February the 6th, at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And it will be short. I want to check in on the family therapy, the children's placements, and revisit the possible return of PP and SP, and also check on the parents' compliance. So.
Okay.
All right. So again, that's February the 6th at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Okay. The court is going to confirm its order that the parents, at least Mr. Perkins' drug test, any request for him to go to drug test be made to him the day before. All right. Okay. With that, thank you all very much. Please take care. You are excused. Ms. Walker, I think you're done. So
yes,
it's your dinner time, your supper time, or whatever. But I do believe that concludes your caseload for today. So,
Your Honor.
Thank you very much. You're excused. Okay.
Be excused.
Oh, Your Honor, I just wanted to let you know. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead first.
I was just asking to be excused, but I want to hear what you got to say too.
Oh, no, there's a case, Your Honor, and it involved MR. Mom was LR, 12-year-old. She's watching YouTube right now from Wyoming, and he is doing awesome, Your Honor. At that point, I don't want to remember who represented the young man, but I represented the mom in that case, and she's watching, and she sent me pictures, and he's doing wonderful.
Well,
in Wyoming with all the snow.
Okay, well that made my day. So that's wonderful. Thank you for that update.
You're welcome.
A shout out to them under the big sky. Okay, great. Thank you for that update. So all right. So yes, Mr. McCatherine, you may be excused. Thank you all very much